Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello and welcome to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brendan Labarre, and the Winnipeg Jets beat the Colorado Avalanche 3-2 in overtime. And before we get into the game, let me tell you about Hyperdrive Hockey. So let's shift into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey. Bring a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max, Daphne, and Kevin every Tuesday and Friday for your fill in on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and or Amazon. Head to our website at thegameovernetwork.com for more. So pretty fun and exciting game there. Make sure, hello, I don't know if I said my name. My name's Brendan Labarre. It's great to be here after a nice Jets win. And before we kind of break into the game in the first period here, we really like to kind of go through the game kind of step by step. But while you are here, make sure you're chatting away. The chat's on screen. I tested it. Look at that. You can join the show, be a part of it. Everyone can see what you have to say and just join in on the conversation. And to begin our broadcast here, we're going to start with a little bit of highlights and lowlight. Highlight and lowlight is where we pick a player or pick maybe a little bit more of a concept in the game. And we kind of make sure, okay, who kind of really came out to play in this one and who kind of struggled, maybe didn't have their best performance of the season. And to start with the highlight, I think we have to go with Neil Pionk. Neil Pionk came into this game. He scored the overtime winner. And Neil Pionk kind of over the course of this season against the Colorado Avalanche, he's really kind of stepped up his game, I believe, in terms of rush defense. Going back to the first game against Colorado Avalanche, he's really been good at kind of taking on the role of being matched up against McKinnon and using his stick, using his kind of skating backwards in order to kind of not keep pace with him, because who can do that in this league, but been able to just kind of been able to withstand the attack. Because with a guy like Nathan McKinnon, it's not always about stopping him, because like you saw on that one play today where he scored, it is almost impossible to do so, but it's more about just containing him, making sure that his looks are limited. And while he did get his looks tonight, he wasn't kind of beat on those assignments, and that is usually his assignment, is kind of taking on those rush players. We saw that in the 2021 playoffs when he really got the McDavid assignment, and it seems like throughout the season, while they were going against the Colorado Avalanche out the season, which the Jets won the season series 3-1, Neil Pionk was the guy getting those assignments, and he did a great job of that tonight, limiting Nathan McKinnon to the one goal, which is great to see. The guy who leads the NHL in points and to terrorize the Jets last year in the playoffs. And the low light for the Winnipeg Jets, hard to find a low light, but I'll just say it was anyone who was guarding, anyone who was defending Joel, his name Joel Kiviranta, because Kiviranta had a great game. He was just off, got a couple of breakaways, some really nice chances, some things you want to cut down on if you meet them in the playoffs again. Joel Kiviranta was just such a menace with his speed, able to cut through the defense of the Winnipeg Jets. And so just whoever was covering him, be better. Have a little bit more of a care for the respect of the name of whatever his first name is. I think it's Joel Kiviranta. We gotta get that guy. So for the first kind of part of the game, one of the first kind of big events that happened was Nathan McKinnon rushed through the Winnipeg Jets defense, got a backhander on Connor Hellebuyck, and we got a little bit of a scare because it did beat him through the 5-hole, hit off the post, if you weren't able to watch the game, and just kind of also bounced off the back post, back into his legs, able to corral that. He's the best goaltender in the world. He's allowed to, have it slip through. It didn't go in the net. It was fine. It was just a little close. And then, Ehlers draws a penalty, as he tends to do. The Jets look really good on the power play, as they always do. Kevin Sawyer was going on about Craig Button was going on at the intermission about maybe not having the best. They were kind of afraid to be in front of the net. It's like he doesn't watch them all the time like we do. We know they're trying to generate space, generate movement out there, trying to open up that middle of the ice for that bounce shot to Scheifele or Velarde. They're moving around with purpose out there, and the Winnipeg Jets are actually 32nd in the league at being bad on the power play. So they, I think they know what kind of know what they're talking about when they kind of are able to just kind of get out there. And the Winnipeg Jets, how many times this year have they gone 1-for-1 on the power play? They did that so in LA. They did that a few games later. I think when it comes to the power play, we can refrain from judgment a little bit. They are kind of feel like they kind of got that nailed. And then just kind of in that first period, the Avalanche were still able to kind of get some of those rush chances, but with McKinnon, especially in that first period, they felt like they were able to kind of hold him off. And it felt like that first line was having to go around, kind of play down low. And it was just kind of nice to see the Winnipeg Jets have that special attention. But then right in the second period, Kiviranta gets a breakaway, which Hellebuyck makes a beautiful stop on. Love it. He does it all year. I think if you go back to Connor Hellebuyck's first season, his first few years in the league, one thing that you noticed with him is when he went on when he kind of got a breakaway on him, one thing he would always kind of do is just kind of spread out on his stomach, kind of take away the bottom of the net. And it's nice to see that he's kind of adapted his game to also have other moves on the breakaway. Just a nice kind of evolution of our friend Connor Hellebuyck. And then Nathan MacKinnon scores. And with Nathan MacKinnon scoring here, one thing you'll notice is that the Colorado Avalanche in this game were really good at using the top part of the offensive zone to generate speed. And one of the first things they did on this play is throughout the first period, whether it was the Winnipeg Jets being able to kind of keep him to the outside or just kind of stopping him on the rush, Nathan MacKinnon was kind of held at the to the ends of the boards, kind of on the outside. And then one thing they kind of did to stop that is when the Colorado Avalanche were able to cross the blue line in this one instance, they were able to stop. Devon Toews holds up. Nathan makes sure that all the Winnipeg Jets are standing still, and they turn their fastball into a changeup. And Devon Toews is able to pass it just right along the top of the Winnipeg Jets defensive zone, and Nathan MacKinnon's able to just run in, crush in. No one's catching him. Nino Niederreiter is caught completely flat-footed. Nathan MacKinnon hits the post, bounces off. He gets his own rebound, and it's in the net. And you're like, oh my gosh, is this guy just going to take over the game? And then there's a little bit of a 4-on-4 that happened after Appleton got held up with Middleton. I keep on wanting to say Jacob Middleton. That's the guy's brother. That's not who he is. But on that 4-on-4, my favorite part about it was kind of the control game that the Winnipeg Jets were kind of able to have. And what I mean by that is it felt like Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers, whoever's on the ice, they had one of them on the ice at all times. And they were like almost tasked with, okay, guys, we don't want to play 4-on-4 against this team. Have you seen those guys? They're crazy. They got McKinnon, Makar, Ranton. We don't want any part of this. So let's just hold on to the puck. We are actually not going to shoot. We want to hold it. We don't want to play ball. We just kind of want to get out of this 4-on-4. Let's make sure that they can't use that. We can't use their speed. They can't use their special skills to take advantage of us in a game that we don't want to play. Because as we saw last game with the Colorado Avalanche, where the Jets really had success was pitting them against the wall, especially when they're holding on to the lead. So making sure that you don't get into that run and gun game, especially when there's more open ice on a 4-on-4, really benefited the Jets. And then the Winnipeg Jets tie the game, and it comes from a very unlikely source. Josh Morrissey passes up to noted not points getter David Gustafsson, who goes along the right wall, makes a nifty little backhand pass right in front, and then Appleton and Barron just doing their thing, just going in real straight lines, and Barron's able to just tap the puck in. Beautiful, simple hockey. Love to see it. Wish the top line could get in on that. And then Kiviranta gets another breakaway. This guy was a menace all game, really crazy. And with the last like 5 minutes in the second period, the Avs start really picking up the speed, and they're really kind of adding the neutral zone into their game. They're having turnovers in the neutral zone. They're turning the pucks over. They're attacking the Jets. And what really turned it around was a shift by the second line where Vladimir Meskov rings one off the post. There's all this chaos. And then the guy with the best hands around the net, maybe in the Western Canadian sphere, is Gabriel Velarde. And Gabriel Velarde is able to just have this puck around the net, whips it back in complete chaos, whips it back up to Josh Morrissey. Josh Morrissey hits it off of Gabriel Velarde's butt. My dad's way to score. He would love that. He loves that type of goal. Just hitting it off the guy, just go in the net, going where goals are scored, and is able to get the puck in. So they go into the third period with a lead. And what the Colorado Avalanche do in this third period is they reveal just a tactic that the Winnipeg Jets seem to want to do sometimes, and that the Dallas Stars did this more so in order to get breakaways. But what the Colorado Avalanche were doing was they would have a guy at the blue line, and what they would do is they'd kind of get a pass up to this man. So it could be McKinnon, it could be Rantanen, it could be whoever's there, and they get the puck, they get the zone. They just put their stick across, and then what they do is they have a guy come in just with speed, and whether they do that across the blue line or right in front of it, they have a guy with speed. As so when the Winnipeg Jets have their guys lined up at the defenseman, they're trying to like play off of who has the puck in the moment. The Colorado Avalanche attacker is able to just go around the side with full speed, full head of steam, and just kind of create an odd man rush and really attack the Winnipeg Jets goaltender almost uncontested. That happened 3 or 4 times, and that's exactly what happened on the Cale Makar goal, where Rantanen's able to just get the zone. I believe it was Rantanen. It was Rantanen or Drouin. One of those guys on the top line is able to just hand it off to Cale Makar, and they just drive with speed. And then kind of going into the third period, they were just trying to hold on, get that extra point. Let's get out of here with some points, make this a real not successful road trip. This won't be a successful road trip because you can only go 1-1. And then a really nice give and go with Connor and Scheifele, where Mackenzie Blackwood makes 2 unbelievable saves, and then Ehlers takes this just god-awful penalty. Not a god-awful penalty because he took a bad one, but because the refs don't understand that you can hit somebody when they have the puck, even if it's Nathan McKinnon. That is allowed. And so they go in the penalty kill. They are able to get it to overtime, and 17 seconds in, Neil Pionk just decides that it's clobbering time, and he just takes a slap shot, breaks it in, scores an OT winner, much like he did in the past. I forget, it was either 1 or 2 years ago where he scored an OT winner against the Colorado Avalanche in the very same fashion. 17 seconds though. So it is lovely. I got to tell you what, I did bet on the Colorado Avalanche to win this game. Put a little money in the Betway account, and I think I did that so because I thought that Nathan McKinnon was going to be able to just terrorize them without their kind of defensive stalwart, Adam Lowry. I thought that might have deflated the Winnipeg Jets in a way, but you know what they say about betting against your own team? If you do it, you win both either way. So that's kind of, you know what? Maybe I'm just the smartest guy in the room. But if you're looking for ways to be smart, and if you're looking for ways to help an upstart media company employing over 30 young journalists and analysts across Canada, and if you have a few dollars just kicking around, you can head to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thegameovernetwork. It's right there in the description, and there you'll find multiple tiers with different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, extra looks behind the scene, Discord benefits, merch discounts, all that good stuff. And if you want a free and easy way to support Game Over Winnipeg and the Game Over Network, just, head down to the kind of bottom here, just hit like and subscribe. Super free and easy way to support us at the Game Over Network. And so let's kind of head into the second period, where we kind of talk about more long-term kind of things that go on with the Winnipeg Jets, kind of things that aren't necessarily things that happened in the game today, or maybe stemmed from the game today. So let's head into the second period right now. So with the second period, the first thing I want to talk about was Neil Pionk, but we kind of did that earlier in the show. And what I just want to talk about with him is his ability to kind of defend on the rush, something that stemmed from multiple games against Colorado. Looks really good against McKinnon. It seems like it's just such a lovely evolution of his game to kind of build upon his skill set. And maybe it's just a contract year thing where he's trying a little extra harder, but you know what? We'll take it. We just care about winning at the end of the day. And then another thing I wanted to talk about was in this game today, one thing that kind of threw me for a loop is there was a couple of times where Nikolai Ehlers had the puck and he was able to take an extra step, have a burst of speed. And I really hope that it wasn't because he was on the ice against Nathan McKinnon, but he just or Cale Makar, but he just wouldn't take that extra step. He wouldn't take that burst of speed, and maybe it was just that defensive pair of Taves and Makar being able to hold him back. But with Nikolai Ehlers, I really hope it wasn't a coaching thing to kind of steer him away from taking that extra burst, because with Nikolai Ehlers and kind of the Jets roster in general, they don't have a guy like Nathan McKinnon. We talk about this all the time. They don't have a guy like Nathan McKinnon, like Cale Makar, just that unbelievable, undeniable skill and physicality. Where if you have a guy like Nikolai Ehlers, you really hope that they kind of unleash him in those moments, because when he can be a game breaker, you kind of got to let him. And I think if you're going to have a guy like, hate talking about him, Logan Stanley, because if he's going to have the opportunity to kind of make a mistake that might completely give you some downfall in terms of your game, if he's able to make one mistake that kind of leads you to kind of lose a game in the playoffs, you kind of have to let Nikolai Ehlers win the game for you. And you kind of see on with a guy like Kyle Connor, he kind of doesn't get that same sort of criticism. And I'm really hoping that they weren't kind of holding him back, and it was just kind of him knowing who he was out there against. And then another thing I want to talk about too was the first line. And this was another game where with the first line, they were out there and they didn't get on the score sheet. They weren't able to kind of drive that offense that you're hoping out of them. Now, they did have a new configuration today with Adam Lowry being gone. They were kind of, one thing they said on the broadcast is they were hoping for more of a kind of diversifying the face-off kind of abilities, the guys who are out there to kind of take the draws. So the idea was that Mark Scheifele would be on the first line and he would take all the draws. He's kind of their most reputable guy there. On the second line, you would have Vladimir Nemeskov taking face-offs on the left side, and then you would have Velarde taking draws on the right side. So just kind of showing that face-offs are really important to this team, especially where this is an area where the Winnipeg Jets could take advantage of the Colorado Avalanche. And that is because Colorado is 31st in the league in faceoffs. So they're the second worst team in the league at winning draws. And on the third line, they had the same sort of setup where you can have Cole Perfetti and Rasmus Kupari taking draws as well. And on the fourth line, you have Gustafsson, and Barron also takes draws. I'm not sure if they had Appleton taking any draws tonight, though, because it seems like if they are following that sort of thought pattern, they would have that right-handed guy out there taking the draws as well. So just kind of having that kind of face-off ability on each and every line. But I think one thing with that first line and what it was kind of lacking tonight is just some directness. And what I mean by that is there was a couple of times in the first period where Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, and they would enter the zone and they'd immediately look for a pass across high ice. And this has been kind of a weakness of the Winnipeg Jets lately, and it was very evident in that Los Angeles Kings game. And in that Los Angeles Kings game, Winnipeg would enter the zone. It was those two and then Nikolai Ehlers as well, and they would enter the zone, immediately try to make a pass and get picked off. And this was something where the Colorado Avalanche were doing this as well, and it's really important to note that they scored 2 goals off of this. But what they did earlier in the game was they would take the puck down low and really work with it down there. That's something that McKinnon and Rantanen would do very effectively, very well. And so what that does is that kind of sets you up in order to make those plays. But the Winnipeg Jets really try to do it off the hop. They really try to make that happen right away and not setting you up for future success, but setting up for turnovers and things like that. And so we also saw that in that LA Kings game, one thing that they did really effectively is they'd come in and they'd shoot the puck right away, get it down low, do things. And I think I said this on the broadcast a couple of nights ago, is that when the Winnipeg Jets are having really nice, really good sustained success, it is Scheifele down low, it is Velarde down low, it is those guys, Lowry, whoever you want to say. They have a ton of the guys who are good at this. Cole Perfetti's good down low too, so is Nino Niederreiter. And they're really good at just cycling the puck, making things happen, then getting it up to high ice. And especially with those two just making those turnovers right away, it's not something you want to see too much. You really want to see that directness out of their game, especially from the beginning. Harold Peltier, good job, but thanks, man. Really appreciate you out here. Harold Peltier, out with me on 11:33 p.m. Tell me I'm doing a good job. Really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate you coming around. Harold, let me know what you thought of the game tonight, man. Really appreciate your input. And then, so yeah, just kind of being more direct, shooting the puck on the net when you get it, making those plays down low, because that's not about making the low percentage play. It's about building up to a high percentage play, especially when maybe not tonight, scoring 3 even strength goals, but only 2 at 5-on-5. The Winnipeg Jets making kind of need to diversify their attack, especially when, you know, they are the 5th. They have the, what are they? The 3rd best shooting team in the league at 12.3% in terms of shooting percentage. That is 3rd best. Do they have the 3rd best shooting talent in the NHL? Maybe they do. Maybe that's driven a lot by their great power play, but they got to find better ways to kind of score at 5-on-5. Then the last thing I want to say is on the 4th line there was a man who came back. It was Mason Appleton. I am a noted Mason Appleton, maybe not enjoyer. I don't always appreciate his game. I thought he did a great game tonight. Really good on the forecheck. Really good at kind of using his skills to build upon that 4th line. And I thought him and Gustafsson and Barron had a great game tonight. And even though he was not a person who got a point on that 4th line goal, he was really good at just, you know, doing the things that make him special. Nice forechecking, nice digging in the corners. Drew a penalty tonight, even though he took one. Just really nice game for Mason Appleton. Harold says, we will win games now. New leader on this team. We got new leader. Neil Pionk was wearing an 8 tonight. We can kind of give it that to him. And I think, you know, I don't know if that's a little dig at Adam Lowry there, Harold Peltier, saying we'll win games now, new leader on the team. I think we can definitely have room for everyone on the roster and Adam Lowry. All right, and with that, let's build upon that. Let's get into the 3rd period. And if you're enjoying the show so far and you want more of this, right? Well, make sure you hit the like button on this video. We should do this in YouTuber voice. Click subscribe on our channel and make sure you check the notification bell so you're alerted when we go live. If you're listening to our podcast, make sure to give us a 5-star rating or even write us a positive review. If you really like us, make sure you follow us on your favorite social network platforms. You can find us with the Game Over Network on Blue Sky at thegameovernetwork.com, on TikTok, our Twitter, the Game Over NHL, on Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn at the Game Over Network. You can also find our socials. They're in the bottom there. I got to put our Blue Skies in there as well. And yeah, so let's go into the 3rd period. In the 3rd period, we're going to be talking about some things that happened this week, because there's a lot of sit-downs with Kevin Cheveldayoff from reporters in the Winnipeg Jets sphere. And when Kevin Cheveldayoff speaks, there's a lot of things you don't get. This guy does not say a single word. He really loves, you know, the Wiggles. They go fruit salad, yummy, yummy. And then Kevin Cheveldayoff goes word salad, no telly telly. So when we talk about what Kevin Cheveldayoff had to say, he had a few things. And even though he has a lot of things really tight to the chest, and I'm going to be quoting a lot from Mike McIntyre's article, I'm not going to say too much because you know what? That's just spreading like news behind a paywall. And, you know, we pay for good journalism here at Game Over Winnipeg. So we have love the energy. Oh, thank you, Go Local Sports Team. So the first thing we got to talk about is Jonathan Toews. Kevin Cheveldayoff was pretty open about one thing in his article, and that was him being very open to having Jonathan Toews come to the Winnipeg Jets, a Winnipeg guy. They renamed the Dakota Hockey Center after him. If you have ever seen the Don Cherry, what is it? Not documentary, but the one where they have someone play him. I don't know what the type of kind of word for that is. Just the Don Cherry movie. That's the one they're in at the end. The Dakota Community Center, and they just said that they're very interested in having Jonathan Toews be a part of this team. What I would worry about that is he's turning 37 this year, early in the spring, and you just worry about his body holding up. And I would also worry with Jonathan Toews. He has this long resume, right? And with that comes a lot of miles, and especially as a guy who took the last, I forget how long he's been out, 2 or 3 years now. And he just, it just is reminiscent of guys like Mike Fisher, like, who else did this? Mike Fisher, Mike Richards, and just guys who tried to come back a little later. Peter Holland too, which is a crazy name to pull. Oh, and Cody Hodgson tried to do this last year, where you're kind of on the wrong side of 30 and trying to get more out of your body at that age, especially when you haven't done it in so long, can be really tough as just as an athlete. And you can say, well, this is Jonathan Toews. He has such a long resume. He has such a good track record, and he's from Winnipeg. Well, I don't really worry about the acquisition cost, because what's it going to be? A 1-year, $1 million, give him a signing bonus of, if you win the cup, you get $20 million, because I really don't care at that point if you win the cup. But what I worry about is, if you get Jonathan Toews, what does that do to like your locker room that you spent the last 3 years kind of trying to revitalize? And what does that do? What are you promising him when he signs up for your team? Because I think he's going to have a lot of options. And a part of that process is going to be, what can we do for you? And I think what might be the kind of tie-breaking thing for this, and I don't think people want to hear this, is that one of the best medical staffs in the league, which I think he's going to need, or the best medical staff in the league, is definitely from the team that can spend the most, and that might be the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that might be a place where he goes, and that's going to be a really hard pill to swallow for a lot of Jets fans. But I mean, I'm no insider. That's just a person's observation. Okay, so don't at me. Another thing that Kevin Cheveldayoff talked about is kind of negotiations with his pending UFAs. And some people that they talked about were just guys who, Ehlers is a UFA, Pionk, Nemestikov, Iafallo, Mason Appleton, all UFAs. And then they have RFAs and Gabe Vilardi, Samberg, and Barron, all guys who need new deals. And one thing that Kevin Cheveldayoff talked about last year, and he said that they weren't really talking to their UFAs, RFAs. And one thing he said at the end of last year is, one thing that threw off the room pretty big was when Nino Niederreiter signed his contract, because last year they dealt with 3 pending UFAs in season, kind of preseason, and that was what's his face? Oh, Connor Hellebuck, Mark Scheifele, and then Nino Niederreiter. And I remember reports of last year Brendan Dillon being really upset by that, because he's a guy who really wants to stay. And you got to think that with the way that the team's kind of going, and they started 15-1, they're kind of 500 since then. Not the greatest, but you're still like first in the Central. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff is kind of worried about rocking the boat, especially with so many guys who need contracts. It can be kind of tough to kind of kind of balance all those personalities, which can be quite the challenge. And then he talked about his kind of approach to this trade deadline, and he was fairly coy about what avenues he might pursue. And he says, I think the question is the assessment of the market. Are there things, the right plugs to fill those holes? That's just a non-answer. And then he goes, can you make one move? Can you make 2 moves? And he just goes about talking about what he needs to do. But I think he also says that since they have this core and they're getting such good seasons out of this core, that they kind of need to go for it, which is good to see, right? And because this core is not getting any younger, you really gotta, a lot of them are at the beginning of the 30s. You think about the greatest players, Jonathan Toews, I guess we'll throw in there. It's Crosby. Who else? Ovi, no, this is false for Ovi. But a lot of these guys, a lot of the great winners, like Kopitar, Doughty, you think about the guys who really, really win. Kucherov, these guys don't win cups after they're 30. And for the Winnipeg Jets, like, time's really clicking for these guys. All their important players are either 30 or turning 30. Josh Morrissey turns 30 this year. The rest of the core is pretty much 30 besides Kyle Connor and Ehlers, I guess. Kind of secondary pieces. And you really got to think that the time's really clicking. And I really hope they get aggressive. And with Adam Lowry's injury, it might force their hand to kind of spend a little bit more, especially if they can secure that top position in the Central. What else we got on the agenda? We did free agents, what kind of the pending guys here. We did Toews really quickly, and we did the trade deadline approach from Kevin Cheveldayoff. One thing that Mike McIntyre also wrote about is he wrote a long article about Logan Stanley. And we're talking about him again. And just kind of whether or not the GM had the GM was kind of making those moves, whether it was on Arneal. And I'm not going to kind of cite the whole article because I don't think that's fair to the journalist, and I think you can go read it yourself if you would like. But he does put some teasers out of what is said in his articles on his Twitter account, but I just don't want to kind of fade some journalism. But I think with today's lineup decision, I think it's important to talk about kind of Scott Arniel and his little sly approach to putting Logan Stanley on the right side to get Hayden Fleury back in the lineup. And something he said, this is a Micah McIntyre on Twitter, no problem sharing this, is he talked about Scott Arniel kind of quoting Logan Stanley's success on the right side, his offside. And then Scott Arniel said he did it last year for us when he was playing with Schmitty and playing with Sammy. I think Mike McIntyre kind of took this back, especially since Nate Schmidt, famously a left-handed defenseman who prefers the right side, so I don't think he would do that. And Stan does feel comfortable over there, and I hope to see tonight that one-timer that came a few times last year where Sammy fed him and he got that shot off. Now, he did get a couple of one-timers off, and you know what? It's probably his shot is one of the best parts of his game. I don't think we can deny that. But I also think that just when it comes to this quote, the thing that bothers me about it, and it can be true, I think a lot of people calling him a liar. Don't think that's necessarily true. I think Mike McIntyre asked a question, he reported the answer. But I think that not calling Mike McIntyre a liar, calling Scott Arniel a liar. And I think that with Logan Stanley specifically, I think what bothers me the most about this is just the lack of consistent thinking, or the lack of consistent rationale to the fans. Because when you talk about Logan Stanley wanting him to succeed, and I think it's fine to be like, oh, we like him on the right side, we want to see him on the right side, we want to see what we have in every part of the position, and we want this experience to go on. Don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is when it comes to Ville Heinola specifically, and when it came to decide, okay, these two are playing together, they have played games with Heinola and Stanley on the bottom pair, and just the inconsistency of putting Ville Heinola in the position to not succeed by putting him on his offside, quoting that as a challenge, and then saying, oh, all this time we've wanted to try Logan Stanley on this side. And it just feels like an inconsistency in thought. And if you want to try this, why wouldn't you do this when you can also if you're putting Logan Stanley in a position to succeed, why would you also not put Ville Heinola in a position to succeed? And it doesn't bother me. I think if you have thoughts like this, it's fine. I also think you can just say, if you really want to, with Adam Lowry, you're losing some toughness that Logan Stanley does give you. And I've talked about this before, but the Colorado Avalanche, they played Curtis McDermott every game in a season until the playoffs came, stopped dressing him, wanted a kind of an enforcer. But I think especially with Logan Stanley, it's just that inconsistent in thinking just kind of, I think it frustrates people. It definitely frustrated me in terms of inconsistency in thought, in rationale. And it just kind of bothers me because it does make you feel like Scott Arniel, and I think some people are upset because they felt like they were being lied to by the coach. And I think Scott Arniel has done such a good job. You go back to last year, you go back to that stretch when he took over for Bones, especially in January, and you look back to the stretch he's had this year, the 15-1 start, and you really want to root this guy. I love Scott Arniel with a lot of the decisions he makes, the people he brought in, especially to run the power play, things like that. And it feels like this year the Winnipeg Jets have made some steps in the right direction. But when the fans feel like your rationale, and people start pulling up examples, Nick Lynam of Top Line Media, Support Local Media, kind of go through a bunch of processes to be like, what about this example? What about this example? It's just be consistent, I guess, is all I'm asking for, because it makes the fans feel kind of hurt, kind of upset when they feel like they're being lied to from the coach, not Mike McIntyre. All right, and with that, we'll kind of go to the fourth period. This is the period where you can ask me anything you would like. It can be about hockey. It can be about non-hockey. It can be about the book I'm reading, The Franchise by Craig Custance, which is a very good, very fun hockey book. And while you guys are typing in your questions, while you guys are providing some stuff for the show, let's talk about what better way to support something you love than by repping it on yourself. Game Over Apparel's line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Let's throw up our QR code for our store, the hoodie, the mug. I don't have my mug today. With 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, or want to wear your love of goalies proudly with our live or die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee and a toque to get you through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on stream now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. And while I'll see if we'll kind of keep the QR code up there, while we have any kind of questions rolling in, just kind of nice for the Winnipeg Jets to kind of double down on their success against the Colorado Avalanche last year with the, let's actually move this real fast, with the, hopefully no one's trying to scan it at this exact moment, with the Avs this year. They beat them tonight. They beat them 1-0 in their first meeting, one where Connor Hellebuyck really held the fort in the last little bit, which is just par for the course at this point. One game where they looked really, really good against the Avalanche on New Year's Eve. Really like that effort, but it's just one where they had travel from the night before. They were playing against Nashville in Winnipeg, went to Colorado for New Year's Eve, didn't quite have the gas, and they lost 5-2 there. They just couldn't get the scoring. In that last 3-0 effort where they really shut things down in the third period, just really nice to see that success, and it feels like they really get up for these games. And if this is the team, you're going to have lulls and less energy at times throughout the season. That's going to happen. But I think showing that what the playoff version of this team is the one where it's like, okay, we're getting up, we're good to go, let's go. Love seeing that, especially from a team that, especially if you end up playing against Colorado in the first round, kind of seeing what the preview will be. And they did this Colorado last year. Just hopefully they've kind of learned from some lessons from last year and seeing a different way to approach the game from the regular season to the playoffs. Okay, it seems like there's no questions. Our next game is Friday. Friday, 7 p.m. Utah. Our show will be about 9:45-ish. Make sure that if you have any questions, maybe you can't watch on Saturday or Friday, maybe you have things going on, just put some questions down in the comments and I will answer them as a part of the fourth period just to kick it off. Whether you're watching this later, some people watch it after the show. It's almost midnight here in Winnipeg. But thank you so much for watching. My name is Brendan Labarre. This has been Game Over Winnipeg. And I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you click like. Make sure you comment your question for the next video. Make sure you click subscribe. Free and easy way to support the channel. Thank you so much again for watching Game Over Winnipeg. And go Jets go. Have a great night, guys.